Well, my phone rang, and it was the manager of the colliery asked me if I'd go back. So I said, fair enough, I'll come back. He said, right, we'll have a bus ready for you. He gave me the time for the next morning, and that was it. I like to be working, not idling about, and I like to get on with things and get something done. We proved that the strike could be broken. A second strikebreaker joined him. They sent shockwaves through the village.
Report came in, 3 scabs on protected bus gone through Hatfield picket line. All Hatfield pickets flew to the pit.
Well, news began to filter through from the pickets on the lane, and we only had a minimal number of pickets on the lane, that actually scabs had gone in. We couldn't believe it, because we used to have painted right across the road here, no scabs at all.
Everyone was asking what's happened, who's gone in, how many, if any, and what did we think was going to happen. And well, everybody knows what happened. It got very nasty, very nasty.
We found that the entry to the pit had been barricaded. There were tyres, there were wooden barricades. There were a lot of people there who were very, very angry. Very, very soon after that, we started to get missiles thrown at us. The tyres were set on fire, and we were almost under an element of siege.
The Manchester police made frantic radio calls for help. A unit from the Metropolitan police responded.
On our arrival, we were immediately, well, I'm going to use the word attacked, because that's what it felt like. We were taking missiles and attacks from the side, so we were getting hit and we were getting hurt.
They got off the bus, they lined up 10 deep across East Lane with the full riot shields, and they were chanting and banging the shields. Well, people were coming out at the sight of these riot police doing this sort of mini war dance, if you like, on East Lane.
We had our truncheons drawn, so we had weapons ready to use, banging on the shields, and you are quite scary. You're going to scare them.
When they got to the top of the lane, everybody flew, myself included, because you didn't stand about to argue the finer points. You got out of the way when they were in that mood.
To be in a position like that, where you're in confrontation with a community, the animosity is total to you. That you could feel it. It was tangible. You could taste it.
During a brief break in hostilities, the people of Hatfield gathered at the pit lane. Meanwhile, union officials spoke to the strikebreakers.
Branch Secretary Peter Curran then returned to say that one man had changed his mind and decided to rejoin the strike.
When he came out, I saw the look on his face, and that guy really knew he did wrong. He realised he made a mistake. And of course he suffered the consequences afterwards. And those consequences were that in the local clubs and pubs, he just weren't allowed in. And he was isolated. And to be quite honest, quite rightly so. He did something that you should not do.
The other strikebreaker was determined to stay at work until the end of his shift. Dave Douglas came up with a plan, a peaceful sit-down protest.
So when I give the order, just sit down, everybody sit down, everybody sit down.
Sit down, the police won't touch you. So everybody sat down, and I'm on my haunches. I'm watching the police. It's an experienced picket, and I'm watching the police force.
I'm telling you, don't sit down here. They're coming, these bastards. Any minute now, look at them on that side there.
kid outside of me who just come down for a look, been on strike, didn't know what was going off. He sat down. I said to him, "What are you doing sitting down?" He said, "David said, sit down, have a protest." I said, "Get on your haunches and get ready to move."
I'm telling you. Get ready to run.
We ran hard at them. We would have made a lot of noise. And the miners broke, and they ran.
I jumped up, set off running in that direction. This kid who sat on his ass suddenly appears and comes flying by me shouting, "You were fucking right, weren't you?"
The police went in here with truncheons and everything, hitting everything that was above ground level.
Truncheons would have been used, and I'm not going to deny that.
People were running away from here with blood pouring down faces, blood on shirts, women and kids running away screaming.
None of us wanted to hurt women and children, but at home, we've got women and children, and we want to go home to them. So, yeah, we will do things to ensure our own safety.
There was a lot of anger. There were a lot of people who were hell-bent on violence, and I think quite clearly in that, there were injuries on our side and there were injuries on their side.
Amongst the injured was Manchester Constable Paul Kelly.
There was fights going on around me where people were being arrested who obviously didn't wish to be arrested. I'd seen a brick in a man's hand. To be honest, I was so close. I thought, this isn't going to throw. It's a weapon. He's going to use it as a weapon. Got me on my back foot really, because he did throw it and it hit me.
Paul Kelly was taken away for treatment. The man later arrested for throwing the brick was miner ADRIAN Simpson. There were violent scenes in the streets around him.
I saw this police officer hitting another lad on the side of the road with a fire extinguisher. It was a small one, about this height. I ran over the road to see if I could get this police officer's number. The next thing I knew, I just got such a clout at the back of my head, and as I was going down to the floor, I was hit again. All I remember from then is being lifted up with this truncheon under my chin, and then all I can remember is this guy hitting me in the mouth with it, and I just put my head down, and then all I remember is somebody kicking me and hitting me in the back.
After his beating, ADRIAN Simpson was arrested and charged. On his return home, he suffered severe convulsions and was rushed to hospital.
As I went through the accident and emergency doors, I had a convulsion and my heart stopped beating.
He was raced to intensive care, where his heart was restarted. But a brain specialist told him his head injuries would be longer lasting.
He said to me, "I'll probably give you a sick note to keep you off work." He said probably for 10 years. And I thought at the time, I started laughing, to be quite honest. And I said, 10 years? Oh yeah, he said, there's no chance of you going back to work before 10 years. And after 10 years, while I'm still seeing you, he said, you might not go to work for another 10 years after that.
He hasn't worked since that day in August 1984. He still suffers from epileptic seizures and severe headaches.
If that man's still suffering to this day, well, that's a tragedy. I'm certainly happy that the force I saw being used on that day, both on that person and other people, was reasonable and proportionate. How he received those injuries, I do not know. I have no idea, but it's a tragedy.
But for Adrian Simpson, things got worse still.
I was charged with picking a lump of rock up and smashing it into a police officer's face. Where that police officer, there was a police officer hurt that morning, and what he actually got were a chipped tooth and a cut lip.
Adrian Simpson was later found guilty of the malicious wounding of PC Paul Kelly.
Got 3 months.
3 months?
Out on bail.
Pending an appeal.
Pending an appeal?
His appeal failed. He spent 3 months in prison, one of 200 miners jailed in the strike.
So I suppose that was the worst part about it, is being sent to prison for something that I never did.
Hatfield was left in shock at the ferocity of the 21st of August 1984.
It was frightening, you know, the thing came right back into our home village. The police turned up and just took over the village. It was a frightening time, very frightening.
The Hatfield miners may have been frightened, but they had won a victory. The coal board gave up trying to bus in strike breakers. For now. By autumn, the miners felt like outsiders, victimised by the state. The mood was captured by the pickets at Hatfield on the morning of the 12th of October.
The IRA have claimed responsibility for the bomb explosion at the Grand Hotel in Brighton. Firemen have recovered 3 bodies from the wreckage.
We got the news about the Brighton bomb. Maggie, 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 out, out, out became Maggie, Maggie, Maggie.
Boom, boom, boom!
And we sang that to the policeman.
Maggie, Maggie, Maggie! Boom, boom, boom! Maggie, Maggie, Maggie! Boom, boom, boom! Maggie, Maggie, Maggie! Boom, boom, boom!
We thought that the bomb going off was a godsend. And we were actually disappointed when we found out Thatcher had survived. People doing this aren't criminals. They're not troublemakers. They're just ordinary working people in an extraordinary situation. Before 1984, certainly me, I would expect most of the people in this area who were involved had never hated anything or anyone before. You didn't understand the concept. But throughout 1984, we were taught how to hate. Of all the things that they did to us in that year, that was probably the worst.
In mid-October, the Hatfield miners picketed in Rossington, a neighbouring pit village. The strikers were now fighting in their own strongholds. Rossington was the scene of pitched battles in the dark.
Like most pit villages, what they did, they knocked the lights out. They put the street lights out because then it darkens it down. So if there's any police coming into that area, we can disappear into the dark. It could keep us under cover of darkness. It was like a World War II set, you know, dropped in the middle of France. What is our destination? The destination is the pit lane, you know. You could see groups of police going about, and these were in big groups of 6 or 12. And of course, that's dangerous if you're caught by police, you know, they grab you, right? There's going to be no mercy.
On the pit lane, police vans raced to and fro with reinforcements and equipment.
I remember one guy he'd picked up, and it looked to me like either a concrete slab or a grate. I think it was a grate. And as the van went by, it got the grate, threw it, boom, and put it straight through the window. And to be quite honest, at that time, everybody instantly thought he was a hero.
The danger spiralled. A police truck swerved on the narrow pit lane.
So everybody's diving over the wall to get away from this truck. And this truck travelled quite a long distance, must be 20, 30 yards. One lad didn't get away. And he got hit by the truck. The kid were down, and myself and a few guys ran up to him, and straight away we saw that there was blood all over the floor. It was just seeping out.
There's someone hurt. Will you help us here? He's hurt, will you help me? There's someone hurt here. Will you just help me get him up?
As an ambulance arrived to carry away the stricken miner, it became clear to Dave Nixon that the police were getting ready to move in on the pickets.
They were going to attack us, and there was going to be no survivors in this one. So I said, run for it. Right, let's go. We started running and into Rosington Wood. And we were running for hell for leather. We had to get away. As we were getting away from the crowd, we could hear in the distance a scream. These were screams of pickets that were being beat up. These were pickets that were being hit. And if you say to me, what was my thought at that time? It would be that thought of, I'm glad it's not me. As the strike went on, it became a different beast. And each month that went by, this beast got more monstrous. And it was occasion like that where you saw the beast at its full. It was that dark night in Rosington